Hey guys, welcome back to more HOA stories. You are trespassing on private property. That's what the Homeowner Association president's son told me when I stood on the land that I had owned for years. They had forged a deed, faked a notary stamp, and started building a house on my lot while I was away. Let's dive right into the video. And the title story is called HOA President sold vacant lot to her son for $1, but I own it. And the title story starts like this. I own a small empty lot in an HOA neighborhood. It is not glamorous, it's basically some grass with a couple of trees, a busted mailbox stump from the previous owner, and a perfect view of people who are very passionate about mailbox paint shades. I bought it years ago as a long-term building spot, and then life happened. Work sent me out of state for a while, the market got weird, and I decided to just hold on to it. I pay the property taxes through my bank's bill pay, and because I'm not a masochist, I don't attend HOA meetings for a property that has no house. I also opted out of the HOA when I bought it. The original developer made it voluntary for existing lots and I declined in writing. Recorded and everything, just easy. For a couple years my life was mostly airports, short-term rentals and a laptop. Nothing special, nothing dramatic, but then the mail screwed up. Technically I screwed up first by not updating my forwarding when I moved apartments again. My property tax bill got sent to my old address. The new tenant must have been a saint because they actually reached out on social media after sleuthing my name and said, "Hey, you have a scary looking envelope from the county." I thanked them, drove back the next week and grabbed a little pile of mail. Inside that stack was my property tax bill, but it was not just the usual pay this amount. It had an extra page that said the mailing address had been updated at owner request. The new address? Some random PO box in town I didn't recognize. The change was stamped by the county office a few months ago. There was also a courtesy notice about unpaid HOA assessments forwarded as a courtesy from the HOA. That one made me snort. I was not in the HOA, there shouldn't be any assessments. I called the county first. The clerk pulled up my parcel and told me the address change had been submitted by someone presenting authorization from the owner. I asked what authorization and she said it was a form signed by me. She read back the signature like it was a Sudoku puzzle. It was not mine, not even close, and then she said something that made my stomach drop. There's also a recorded lien from the HOA for unpaid dues, fines and mowing fees. It was subsequently foreclosed and sold at a public auction to satisfy the lien. I sat there in my car in a grocery store parking lot holding my phone like it might bite me. I asked for the dates and she gave them. According to the county, my lot had been sold at an auction to an entity I never heard of for, wait for it, $1. A deed had been transferred, a deed for my land for a single dollar. I asked for a copy of whatever they had on file and told her I'd be there in person the next day. I barely slept. I booked an appointment with a real estate attorney recommended by a friend. I emailed him what I had and he responded with something like, "I will meet you at the county office. Bring ID." Do not contact the HOA yet. I didn't argue. We met the next morning, we got the recorded documents, and if you've never seen your own forged signature, it is unnerving. The authorization letter was a ridiculous one-page thing typed in a font I last saw on a yard sale with my signature at the bottom that looked like a third grader's attempt at cursive. The lien was filed by the HOA for assessments, fines, enforcement costs, mowing, and board review fees. There were dates where I was allegedly notified by certified mail to the PO box they switched my mail to. There were hearings I supposedly skipped, and then the kicker, a public auction held at the HOA clubhouse where the HOA president purchased a lien for $1. The next day, she assigned it to a small LLC whose manager was her son. Then the LLC quit-claimed the property to the son's personal name. It was like a 3-card Monty game played with notarized documents. My attorney read it all and then asked me a simple question. Are you or have you ever been a member of this HOA? I said no, and I had the original opt-out recorded as well. He smiled like a cat that heard a can opener. Good, then this is fraud layered on top of nonsense. We're going to unwind it. He laid out a plan. We would file an emergency action to quiet title and injunctive relief because the son had recorded building permits. Yes, the son was already building there. My attorney pulled up the county permits portal and showed me an active permit for a foundation, approved days ago. The owner listed was the son. The contractor, a company that had exactly one review and a Gmail address. I asked, can we stop it? He nodded. If the judge signs the sheriff can shut it down today, we will need to serve them on site. Bring a camera. We drove to the lot. I hadn't seen it in months. I turned the corner and nearly drove past it because it did not even look like my lot. The trees were there, but they had been trimmed badly. There was a porta potty where my trees were shading. A skid steer sat in the dirt like a sleeping rhino. Stakes with pink ribbons were lined up. A shallow trench marked the rectangle where the foundation would go. There were 4 guys in safety vests and a guy in sunglasses pointing like a general. That guy looked at me like I had stepped on his foot. I parked. My attorney told me to let him talk first, and we walked up. Sunglasses guy, who I later learned was the son, gave us a smirk that made me want to do burpees until the feeling passed. He said, "Can I help you?" In that tone that means I cannot wait to be unhelpful. I said, "Yeah, I own this lot." He laughed like a sitcom audience track. "No you don't. Bought it at an auction." "Maybe keep up with your bills, man." My attorney handed him a business card and said calmly, "Construction needs to stop. Right now." "We are heading to the courthouse for an emergency order. If you continue, you'll be ripping up a foundation tomorrow." The son waved a hand. "File whatever. We did everything by the book." I looked at the trench where, by the book, was about to become a concrete mistake and felt heat climb my neck. I was about to say something stupid when my attorney tapped his notebook. "Stay cool. We'll be back." We left, we filed, and the judge signed. After a while, we got a temporary restraining order that said in plain English, "Stop touching my dirt." The sheriff's office said that they would meet us at the site to serve and enforce. When we rolled up again, the HOA president herself was there. Even if you've never met an HOA president, you've met her energy probably. Clipboard sunglasses on a court, that stiff polite smile that says she has thoughts about your trash can. She was tiny but stood like a lighthouse. She saw the sheriff's car and puffed up. I won't pretend I remember every word, but some lines are burned into my skull. Heard to the deputy before we said a word. "Officers, thank God, this man is trespassing. He's harassing the new owner and obstructing construction. This is an HOA matter." Me gesturing at the trench. "This HOA matter is my property." She gave me this pity look like I'd eaten glue or something. "You lost your rights when you didn't pay." "We followed procedure, the board voted, you can appeal through the proper channels." My attorney handed the deputy the order. The deputy read, nodded and walked over to the crew. Everybody shut it down. "You are served. No further work until a judge says otherwise." The son started posturing. "This is ridiculous. We have permits." The deputy pointed at the paper. "This trumps your permits. Stop work and pack it up." The HOA president leaned into my attorney like she was gonna scold him. "You cannot just run to court because you don't like HOA rules." He smiled like a dentist. "He's not in your HOA." She scoffed. "Everyone is in the HOA." My attorney pulled a single page from his folder like a magician. "This is the recorded opt-out. Original developer terms allowed existing lots to decline, and he declined. Your auction was a nullity even before the forgery." Her face tried on a few emotions and then settled on indignation. "You're making a mistake. This will be very expensive for you." I said, probably louder than necessary, "Good thing I've been saving." Not my wittiest moment, but my hands were shaking. Then the crew packed up. The porta potty got winched up like a weird trophy. The son muttered that he would see us in court. The HOA president stood by her SUV, whisper yelling into her phone, probably rehearsing a speech that used community every third word. Once the dust settled, my attorney told me to go home, breathe, let him handle the paper side. The sheriff did the fun part, now we do the boring part. The "you tried to steal my land and now you're going to eat paperwork for breakfast" kind. Step 1 was documentation. We filed affidavits about the forged signature, the address change, the fake auction. We pulled video from my neighbor's doorbell camera, showing the HOA president taping a notice to my property and then taking a photo to pretend it had been served. We subpoenaed the notary logs too. Surprise! The notary who stamped the auction docs was the HOA president's sister-in-law. The commission number was real, but the notary journal had, let's say, creative entries. My attorney dropped the phrase "notarial misconduct" so casually, it sounded like a sandwich order. Step 2. Notify the county and the building department formally. They revoked the permit pending the title dispute. That means any construction now would be illegal and subject to fines. The son posted on the neighborhood Facebook page that jealous people were trying to ruin his dream home. People argued in the comments, someone pasted the public case docket link. The threat didn't go the way he wanted. Step 3. Civil and criminal routes. My attorney filed a civil suit to quiet title seeking damages for slander of title, trespass, and costs. He also sent a packet to the district attorney's office with a little bow on top, forged authorization to change a tax address, forged lien documents against a non-member, sham auction for $1, transfer to a relative, notary issues, and so on. He included the part where they had assessed me for mowing an empty lot I keep cut through my own lawn guy, with invoices from the HOA's preferred landscaper that matched a business registered to the HOA president's husband. If you're gonna steal, maybe don't do it with your family tree. And yeah, if this sounds like a legal avalanche, it was. It was not fast though, it was not TV, but it started to move. The HOA president mailed me a letter rescinding the auction without admitting any wrongdoing. My attorney wrote back, "Too late, you recorded it, you caused damage, see you in court." The son tried to offer me cash to make this go away. He threw out a number that might pay for a used compact car and then huffed when I didn't respond. He texted my attorney after getting my number somehow with, "You will regret this." My attorney forwarded it to me with, "Do not reply." Around this time, a detective called. He wanted to meet at the HOA office. My attorney said, "No, we will meet at the station." When we walked in, the detective had a folder thicker than my thumb. He asked simple questions. Did I authorize the address change? No. Did I sign any HOA documents? Once again, no. Did I receive certified notices? No. He showed me green cards with my signature. I laughed because it was just my name printed in block letters. He said that's a problem for the person who filed it, but not me. Then came the very satisfying day. I was working from home when my phone lit up with neighbor texts. "Cops at the clubhouse. What did you do?" "I think they're arresting her." "I didn't do anything. She did." The detective called my attorney to say that HOA President was being arrested and the sister-in-law notary was getting a visit too. The son was not arrested that day, but his smug Facebook went quiet. I walked outside and bumped into my neighbor who always knows everything, and he had that hot tea face. He said the HOA president tried to give a speech about witch hunts while being escorted out. She told the officer, "This is a misunderstanding, I was protecting the community." The officer, bless him, supposedly replied, "Protecting the community doesn't include stealing someone's land." The HOA called an emergency meeting. I went to it, my attorney didn't. He said to stay quiet and just observe. The board sat up front looking like they wanted to be anywhere else. One of them read a statement and they suspended the president and then accepted her resignation effective immediately. They also announced an independent audit of their processes. People murmured, someone asked about dues, someone else asked if they could get a refund for a fence fine from last year. It got chaotic quickly. The son showed up late, stomped to the mic and shouted something about cancel culture and jealous neighbors. The new acting president cut the mic. It was messy. I left before I got a headache. That was the public humiliation part. The private part was me and my attorney putting in some work. We amended our civil suit to include the board itself for negligence, not because I wanted to bankrupt my neighbors, but because the board had let the president run wild. The HOA's insurance got involved too. If you don't know this, HOA boards usually carry directors' and officers' insurance. Guess who was very interested in a president who forged documents? The adjuster grilled them. The board minus the ex-president started being extremely cooperative suddenly. They voted to immediately disclaim any interest in my property and agreed to record corrective documents at their expense. That was step one of putting the toothpaste back in the tube. To be clear, all of this took months. Boring emails, certified mail, a couple more hearings where my attorney did all the talking, while I wore a shirt with buttons and tried not to scowl. Meanwhile, the son's contractor, who had already bored holes and poured a little test footing, got fined by the county for violating the stop work order the day after the sheriff served them because apparently just one more trench is an irresistible urge. Furthermore, the contractor demanded payment, the son refused. The contractor filed a mechanic's lien against the son's interest, which was hilarious because his interest was built on quicksand. The son's credit line then got frozen. My neighbor who works in landing said off the record, "He's cooked for a while." One afternoon, I pulled up to the lot and found the son and a couple dudes with a flatbed grabbing the last of their stuff. He glared at me like I'd kicked his puppy or something and he muttered, "Hope you enjoy your empty field, man." I shrugged. I enjoy not having strangers build something on it. He got in his truck and peeled out, which didn't have the effect he wanted because it's hard to look tough on a cul-de-sac and a lifted pickup, doing 12 miles an hour. The criminal side moved faster than I expected. The ex-president took a deal. I only know the outline because I'm not the DEA, but it involved pleading to a felony, some misdemeanors, probation, restitution, and losing her notary-like privileges for life. The sister-in-law lost her notary commission permanently, and the son, well, he didn't get charged criminally from what I know, probably because the DA focused on the documents, but he was named in my civil suit and he settled before trial. He wrote a check that my attorney described as respectful. It covered my legal fees, my costs, and a chunk of change that made me feel like buying a very unnecessarily nice lawnmower just to park it on the lot and rev it on Saturdays. The HOA's insurance covered their part and insisted on compliance training, new signature policies, and outside property management oversight for a year. The board members looked like kids after a lecture. They wanted this to go away. I was just happy to let it go away after two things happened: a recorded apology and a community notice. My attorney drafted a statement for the board to mail to every homeowner and post on the website. The HOA improperly recorded a lien and conducted an invalid auction of a parcel not subject to the association. We regret the error and any distress caused to the owner. We have implemented new controls to ensure this never happens again. No weasel words, no if, just we messed up. They mailed it, people talked, the story spread. I didn't love being that guy in the neighborhood, but if the alternative is being that sucker who lost his land because he moved out of state, I will take it. A few months after all of this, the county recorded the judge's final order quieting title back to me. It was one line that felt like a deep breath. My name, my lot, clean. The new HOA president said they were refunding people where they could. She asked me to consider joining the HOA to be part of the solution. I laughed and said absolutely not. We both laughed. If you're wondering if I ever built on the lot, not yet. I had the silly idea that I would plant a sign that says not for auction and just leave it. My wife vetoed that. She said it is tempting fate. Instead, I planted a couple of wildflower beds along the front and they bloomed like a postcard. The same neighbor who always knows everything walked by with his dog and said, "Looks good, better than a porta potty." I told him, low bar, but I will take it. And the next one is a fantastic petty revenge story. So this just got brought up to me via text from one of my old co-workers, and I'd completely forgotten about it and thought I would share it. For context, I live in the Midwest. I had a friend at my previous job who worked in IT. He was head of cybersecurity and licenses while I was project manager for the site and ran the facilities. He and I had to work hand in hand frequently as we had government contracts and had to lock in visitors and get them vetted sometimes for a key fob to enter the facility. I would collect vendor information and pass it on to him while he ran things and got permissions. Sometimes I was upgrading on-site systems or installing new equipment for monitoring things like the new solar panels and whatnot. This required me to install new programs to not only my computer, but specific workstations as well. Prior to this current job, I had worked for the government as a contractor, and my top secret clearance was a good selling point for me with this company, as it meant the IT department could work with me on things and use my own contacts I'd also established. I was also the IT manager and understood the lingo and the nomenclature, so needless to say, my friend and I worked well with each other. Unlike other IT departments I'd worked with or companies I worked for, this job hated IT and treated them like the red-headed stepchild. IT hindered production apparently, and they hated all the rules and procedures that came from them, more like a burden than preventive. The company gave them the lowest minuscule budget I'd ever seen and never took any of what they said seriously. They overworked them and made them come in on weekends or stay late, citing that's why they are salary. I sympathized with them and tried my best to help or do the work for them to take things off their plate. New access point needed installed? No problem. I will use the scissors lift to do it. Need the Ethernet cable ran 100 yards from the roof to the hub? Sure, why not? The trust my helping and knowledge led to my friend giving me admin access and for me to install or debug programs for him while he was stuck in hours-long training sessions or meetings. The company wisely had certain workstations committed to one computer, and if that crashed or acted up, it shut down production or the line. It was just easier for me to enter in administrator credentials and reboot systems or troubleshoot rather than wait for them to get done by IT. My friend left for another job across the country, and I honestly had forgotten that I still had administrator credentials. I hadn't honestly needed them for a while, and I was busy with other things because I was in charge of the facilities. I was generally the last one out every single day. The workers had a bad habit of leaving every light on, and the owner of the company would get triggered by it. It was just easier for me to stay 20 minutes after the end of my shift and close up shop after the stragglers or people finishing jobs. My last day was not any different than normal, but with one small difference. I heard voices this time while I was closing up. I followed the source, and one of the workstations was left unlocked and blaring on his webpage, Fox News on one page and Newsmax on the other. Employees had been warned about this tons, and the person whose station I was at was a crap person to me. An evil idea came over me, and then I remembered that I had admin credentials. So I went to the web settings and started blocking those sites. Out of curiosity, I went to another workstation and found their browsing history was the same, so I proceeded to do the same thing there. I continued to do this at every workstation throughout only one plant. Not only was it foolproof, but the stations were unlocked by the username of the department it was at, but also a blanket work password. The administrator credentials were also a blanket username and password, not tied to anyone. Keycards were only locked in the system for inbound, not outbound. It wasn't unheard of for staff to still be there finishing things up, hence my staying late, so you couldn't pinpoint who done it. The timestamp for admin access might give it away, but there's no cameras on the facility. IT is generally one of the last ones out as well. They could check all the logs they wanted. It was a different team than when my friend was there, and they didn't know I had admin access. Hell, even I forgot I did too, plus I was quitting. Good luck proving it wasn't one of you or admitting there was a breach in security. I honestly forgot about it until one of the plant managers messaged me out of the blue today. We had a snowstorm last night and the solar panels were acting up and they needed to know how to reboot them. I told him how, cause I was helping him, not the company, so we started catching up and I asked how the skeleton shift was working for them, and he said fine, but they'd been trying to find a glitch in the matrix for a few months now. The weekend crew was hit with layoffs because of the winter and these tariffs. They are running a crew of 3 on the weekends and they've been doing okay, but their chief complaint is that they cannot use certain websites for some reason. Since IT was overworked and it was just a weekend shift complaining, it was deemed a low priority, but apparently it's starting to piss more and more people off and they are now unintentionally throwing themselves under the bus if they're complaining that they cannot watch Fox News etc. on shift instead of working. Seems like a win-win to me. And the next one is a petty revenge story which is titled "Made Neighbor Run Over the Trash That He Kept Piling at My Door." So I live in a small studio apartment and due to the layout of the building my whole apartment is directly above the downstairs neighbor's garage. I picked the apartment because I have a large dog with a lot of energy and didn't want to have anyone living below me. Well, big mistake. The downstairs neighbor keeps finding new ways to disrupt my daily life. In winter he would warm up his truck in his garage for 30+ minutes. With the radio cranked so loud it rattled my dishes in the cabinet. He would then leave his garage open all day, making it harder to hear my apartment. Same in the summer, leaves the door open all day, against building rules by the way, making it almost impossible to cool down my apartment. On top of that, instead of putting his garbage outside his apartment door, he likes it up on my doorstep because he stores his garbage cans in the garage. At least once a week, I find his garbage blocking my door. I've spoken to him and building management several times and nothing changed. This weekend was my breaking point. He had a party on Saturday and I came home to my door literally being blocked by a half-dozen overflowing bags of cans and bottles and garbage. I took all of them and stacked them in front of his garage door. I set them so they would tip over when he opened the door, so he would grab them. Instead, he must not have noticed and just backed out of his garage and dragged garbage all over the parking lot. So yeah, I got to watch him spend a good 30 minutes picking it all up and rebagging it before he could leave. Hopefully this means no more garbage piled up at my door. And yeah guys, please let me know where you are watching from today if you have watched this far, and I will see you again tomorrow.